Hello everybody, welcome back to presentation Approach to Treat Neurodevelopmental Disorders in Children. This is Humaira Tabassum, Senior Pediatric Neurophysiotherapist. The complete presentation is a general overview of neurodevelopmental disorders in children in context of physiotherapy. We know that neurodevelopmental disorder is a significant topic in childhood disability, and today I am going to present the second part of this presentation, which is regarding differential diagnosis in neurodevelopmental disorders in children. Part 1 of this presentation was regarding the definition and etiology of neurodevelopmental disorders in children. You can find this part 1 and the complete lecture on the links which are provided down in the description box. So, what will be the content of this presentation and what we are going to learn from this presentation? First of all, we will see why differential diagnosis. Why do we do differential diagnosis while dealing and treating any medical condition in our daily practice? Then we will see what is differential diagnosis, how can we define this term. Later we will learn why it is important to do differential diagnosis specifically while dealing with children having different conditions under the name of neurodevelopmental disorders. We will also find out how classification tool is used while conducting differential diagnosis and assessment specifically for neurodevelopmental disorders in children in context of physiotherapy. And at the end, we will determine different conditions of NDDs that could benefit from physiotherapy. So we will discuss first of all the first objective of this presentation, which is why differential diagnosis and why do we do differential diagnosis. We know diagnosis is key to process of clinical decision making. Accurate diagnosis improves use of classification tool, facilitates the clarity and communication between medical team and patient, guide us towards right plan of action or treatment, helps to understand the prognosis of illness and patient, and could be useful for preventive treatments. This process of accurate diagnosis is actually based upon differentiation of structures or reasons to recognize and understand the underlying cause of illness or medical condition. And this process of differentiation is actually known as differential diagnosis. After establishing the key role of differential diagnosis in the process of clinical decision making, let's have a look what is differential diagnosis, how can we define this term, and how do we do differential diagnosis. Differential diagnosis is defined as process by which discrimination is done between two or more conditions which may create confusion for sharing common signs and symptoms. Differential diagnosis is the procedure to consider each and every possible cause of patient clinical finding before reaching to final conclusion and diagnosis, and there remains no chance to ignore even a single cause. Differential diagnosis helps to generate a list of possible reasons may responsible in developing the medical condition and thus play important part in clinical reasoning. To conclude, differential diagnosis is an act of selection of right decision through deductive reasoning. Why differential diagnosis is of utmost importance while dealing and treating children with neurodevelopmental disorders. We know that NDDs are the disorders of brain structures and functions, and they have different types of developmental effects in children associated with wide variety of problems in physical, intellectual, behavioral, emotional, or social functions. These effects of disorders are developed and more obvious over the passage of time as child grows older. NDD is an umbrella term encompassing different conditions. These conditions do overlap the symptoms and even etiology. Differential diagnosis, which is based upon scientific reasoning, is essential within first place to identify the shared presentation and recognize the overlaps of conditions of entities. By doing the differential diagnosis, we can provide the appropriate services to children, just not to treat the manifestation of symptoms rather than to treat the underlying cause of the condition. The emphasis on early identification and early intervention to treat and manage the NDD in literature is another factor to advocate the scientific based differential diagnosis, because early age is time where symptoms are more overlapping and more confusing. With early comprehensive assessment to provide the appropriate diagnosis is essential, and there comes the most important factor, which is classification system of NDD, thus to do efficient diagnosis and provide the effective treatment plan from early years to manage and prevent the worsening of disability. The use of classification system to identify and diagnose the condition is also evident in literature. For example, DSM-5 also proposed the cluster of NDDs to be categorized in general into 6 categories. Along with the description of 8 main features is provided for these categories, and the highlighted feature among those is the overlap of symptoms between the conditions in each category. This highlighted feature further advocates the scientific-based differential diagnosis for accurate clinical decision-making. This new evidence-based approach to categorize the NDDs has not only enhanced the understanding to define the different conditions of NDDs in particular, but also helps to describe the distinct features specific to each condition. And this helps to provide the accurate diagnosis. Therefore, the current practice is more treatment-focused approach where response to intervention can be recorded and measured, which is an essential step in scientific clinical practice. While dealing with NDDs in context of physiotherapy, the provided classification of disorders is helpful to decide the scope of physiotherapy to provide the effective treatment to the subset of this particular huge population of neurodevelopmental disorders who could get real benefit from physiotherapy techniques and treatment approaches. Therefore, the objective of NDD's classification system within the context of physiotherapy is to provide convenience to identify the problem and develop treatment plan for only those cases who could benefit from physiotherapy. In the context of physiotherapy, neurodevelopmental disorders in children can be divided into 3 broader categories. First category is neurodevelopmental disorder for intellectual disabilities. The conditions considered under this category include: number 1, global developmental delay, where children have cognitive and physical functions impairment, and these impairments are significantly affecting the adaptive functioning in general in these children. The another condition of neurodevelopmental disorder comes under the first category is called intellectual behavioral disorders. Here children have impairments of specific cognitive functions like memory, learning, language development, communication, etc. And usually they are presented with specific behavioral patterns which may be responsible to affect normal learning in these children. The second category for neurodevelopmental disorder is mainly related to physical or motor dysfunctions. Here, the abnormal movement patterns with abnormal body tones are predominant feature responsible for abnormal development in these children. However, these disorders may come along with sensory abnormalities and cognitive disabilities. The third category is called neurodevelopmental disorders or sensory processing disorders. The conditions under this category are diagnosed as either sensory modulation disorders, sensory discrimination disorders, or sensory based motor disorders. So these are the three broader categories of neurodevelopmental disorders in children in the context of physiotherapy. The common example of global developmental delay under the category of NDD for intellectual disabilities include mental retardation or intellectual disabilities for particular syndromes like Down syndrome. The second category of movement disorder is usually presented with diagnosis cerebral palsy. The third category of sensory processing disorders includes problems with name like sensory integration dysfunction or dyspraxia or postural disorder for sensory-based motor disorders or developmental coordination disorder or motor learning disability. Now we will discuss what conditions of NDD could benefit from PT techniques and approaches. For this, we will visit the definition and etiology along with discriminating features specific to each conditions in NDD. Eventually, on the basis of these collective information, we could determine the role and scope of physiotherapy to treat these specific conditions. While dealing with neurodevelopmental disorders with intellectual disabilities, child may come with diagnosis of global developmental delay or mental retardation. According to American Association on Mental Retardation, which is currently known as American Association of Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, mental retardation or global developmental delay can be defined as substantial limitation in child's present general intellectual functioning accompanied by significant limitation in adaptive functioning, which should be manifested before 18 years of age and must be present in at the least two areas of development including communication, self-care, home living, social skills, community use, self-direction, health and safety, functional academics, leisure or work. The predominant features of global developmental delay or mental retardation includes significant deficits in intellectual functioning, which is expressed in terms of intelligence quotient score of child, and it should be at the least 2 standard deviation below the normal population mean value. The upper limit of this IQ level is 70 to 75 as provided by American Association on Mental Retardation. Another feature includes significantly low level of adaptive behavior functioning in these children. Adaptive behavior is defined as skills needed to function independently in daily life and ability of child to adjust a specific environment according to the need or demand of that environment. These deficits in intellectual quotient level and adaptive functioning must be identified and assessed through formal psychological testings, and these both factors must be in direct correlation, that is, increased level of deficits in intellectual functioning must be accompanied with higher levels of incapabilities in adaptive functioning. Mental retardation could be classified as mild, moderate, severe, or profound retardation. These classifications are established in relationship with low scores of IQ level in these children and accordingly the level how they are presenting incapability in adaptive functioning at different intensities. Physical developmental impairments are also presented in combination with cognitive impairment in these children. Physical developmental delay is predominant feature during early and middle childhood development in these children. Later, physical postural deformities and other physical disabilities could be seen in these children who have higher levels of cognitive dysfunction. If the global developmental delay is present in relationship with particular syndrome, these children are commonly presented with a specific level of cognitive disabilities along with dysmorphic identification features and generally predefined symptoms of function adaptation limitation with cognitive limitation. For example, Down syndrome could easily be identified by dysmorphic features and presented with moderate intellectual disabilities, but commonly known for good social performance. Rehabilitation goals in these children target the combination of multiple domains of development, including cognitive, physical, communication development, and also learning of daily living activities. Goal setting is based upon severity of cognition and physical and functional impairments in daily life, along with child's individual need and keeping in mind the predicted course of prognosis in cases of particular syndromes. For example, if the child has mild or moderate retardation, these children are considered as educable and trainable while doing the goal setting. However, severely retarded children are considered only as routine child and they need to learn how to do activities and routine in daily life. How and profound children are only taken as manageable children. Physiotherapists have two types of goals while dealing with global developmental delays in children. During early and middle childhood, physiotherapist has significant role to address the physical developmental delays and facilitate child to achieve normal or near to normal developmental sequence by applying special techniques. In later ages, when postural deformities and physical disabilities could be a concerned issue, specifically in children with severe intellectual disabilities, physical therapists can help to prevent the body and postural alignments and thus maintain the physical functions mainly related to mobility and balanced positioning in these children. The another group of neurodevelopmental disorders for intellectual disabilities are the conditions which are characterized by impairment of particular cognitive functions and thus have problem in specific area of development and adaptive functioning along with presentation of particular symptoms of predefined behaviors. These children for having behavioral presentation as dominant diagnostic feature could be named as intellectual behavioral disorders and commonly presented in our daily practice with diagnosis of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or autism spectrum disorder or learning disabilities. To define attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, it is cognitive impairment with particular symptoms which must be acquired before 7 years of age. The condition is characterized by impaired and limited attention along with presentation of significant behavior of impulsivity and hyperactivity. Formal psychological testings must be done by experts in this field to confirm the diagnosis in these children. These children usually do not have any significant history or chief complaint of physical developmental delay or any problem in acquiring daily living activities. However, sometimes walking with tipping of toes or frequent tripping and falling while moving outside the boundaries could be reported in these children. Care is needed while assessing these issues in the children to discriminate the reason if it is related to physical incapabilities or due to the behavior of inattention and lack of focusing. Treatment must be planned according to the identified problem and decision must be taken while the next group of conditions related to intellectual behavioral disorders are named as autism spectrum disorder. This disorder must appear in children during first 3 years of life and dominantly affect the development of social and communication skills in these children. The children are usually presented with specific behavior in daily routine like spinning, fidgeting, or making voices, etc. And these symptoms are taken as diagnostic feature as well. Very rarely, any physical developmental delay or incapabilities are reported in these children, and thus scope of physiotherapy remain very insignificant in these children. The third type of disorders related to NDDs for only cognitive impairment is the diagnosis of learning disabilities in children. Learning disabilities found in normal intelligent children or people, but they have difficulty in acquiring or achieving the particular learning skills mostly related to academic functions like reading, writing, or learning mathematical skills. These children are found to have normal intelligence quotient, and apart from problems in learning particular skills, they are usually performing well in other functional areas of development and daily living. They may show the significant social or emotional concerns because of failure in achieving their targets, but history of symptoms related to physical or motor development is not of concern in these children. Let's conclude this group of entities related to sensory behavioral disorders in terms of characteristic features in order to determine the role and scope of physical therapy involvement while dealing with this group. First of all, these children are presented with impairments in particular sets of cognitive function, and they are exhibiting the specific issues of related adaptive functioning rather than low cognitive function in general, and thus having low level of intelligence quotient. Secondly, these disorders could be identified or diagnosed on the basis of predetermined and well-defined evidence-based set of symptoms and sensory behaviors. On the basis of presentation of symptoms and needs of this group, there are usually limited concerns for physical or motor development in this group of NDDs. Apart from some concerns could be seen in children with ADHD during their early or middle childhood development, and therefore the role and scope of physiotherapy remains quite insignificant while dealing with this group of disorders. Even in relationship with the specific motor concerns in ADHD, like frequent tripping or falling while moving in outside environment, could be related to lack of attention and focusing rather than physical incapabilities. Therefore, attending PT sessions to deal with these issues and symptoms in ADHD require in-depth judgment within multidisciplinary team for appropriate decision making related to selecting right treatment approach to be implemented by right professional expert. The second category of neurodevelopmental disorders are related to motor dysfunctions. Here, the altered body tones are actually causing problem in acquiring and developing functions which are specific to physical and motor development in these children. For example, children having cerebral palsy. According to recent definition, cerebral palsy is an umbrella term which includes disorders of movements and postures causing limitation of activity. Cerebral palsy is non-progressive disorder. The etiology includes injury to developing brain during pregnancy or sometimes during delivery or just after the delivery or during infancy. Although the disorder is mainly related to motor dysfunction, it may come along with other sensory, cognitive, behavioral, or seizure disorders. The diagnostic features for motor disorders for neurodevelopmental disorders like cerebral palsy includes predominant history to insult to brain during perinatal, natal, or postnatal period. You will find considerable postnatal history of birth complications, health issues with hospital or NICU admissions. There will be history of significant delay in acquiring motor sequences. On observation and examination, you will find altered patterns of tones and postures along with immature balance and coordination. The abnormalities in structure or body functions in these conditions remain static. without any history of regression in the development of body functions, which is the feature of progressive diseases. The musculoskeletal contractures and deformities are developed in these children over the passage of time as part of secondary problems and should not be taken as regression in functions. The functional limitations in motor development could be presented within these children with sensory, intellectual, or communication impairments, along with history of seizure disorders. It is important to differentiate motor disorders for neurodevelopmental disorders like cerebral palsy from other disorders of movements and postures for progressive diseases like familial ataxia, genetic leukodystrophies, or other metabolic disorders. This is because these disorders share similarity in symptoms of developmental delays, tightness in muscles and joints, and problems of balance and coordination. But the treatment approaches are totally different in these two groups because of having different type of etiology, pathophysiology, and for being progressive diseases, they have different course of prognosis. Physiotherapy has significant role to play to treat and rehabilitate children with motor disorders or neurodevelopmental disorders. Various treatment techniques and approaches are being used to treat these disorders with targeted goals like influence tones, correct patterns of posture, facilitate motor and balance functions in these children, correct and maintain the anatomical alignments and morphological structures, and enhance the function independence of these children. The sensory processing disorders or neurodevelopmental disorder is presented in children in three patterns. They may have sensory modulation disorders, or they may have sensory discrimination disorders, or sensory motor disorders. Here, the children have problems with their sensory system. They cannot understand and process the sensory information received from environment. They may be very slow to receive and perceive these information or feel overwhelmed with even simple and normal stimulus or have craving for intensive sensory stimulus. Sensory modulation disorders in children are presented in three patterns. The first pattern is called hyperresponsive. These are the children who respond too much or too long with any stimuli. They cannot tolerate the stimulus which is very much bearable by normal people. These children are usually known as hypersensitive children. The another pattern is hyporesponsive. They have delayed responses or sometimes they are mute to response. These children are usually known as hyposensitive children. The third category is intense craving for sensory stimulation. These are the children who are always after to obtain sensory stimulus but experience two stimulus remain disorganized and thus they remain unsatisfied. These children are usually known for having intensive self-stimulatory behaviors. Physiotherapists have limited but a specific role in children with sensory modulation disorders. Occasionally, we receive cases where the walking ability is limited or delayed or remain disorganized for longer time for being hypersensitive to tactile stimulation. These are the children who cannot tolerate to touch the ground or specific surfaces with their feet and thus have symptom of delayed walk or awkward walk with abnormal feet pattern. You can also see some children who keeps their limbs and joints remain tight for having self-stimulatory behavior to keep their muscles tight and stretched and to keep their vestibular system satisfied. These children ends up having delayed functions of mobility or having deformities or contractures for keeping their joints and muscles elongated or tight for longer time. Specific techniques of desensitization can be applied to normalize the tone and functions related to feet and lower limbs to achieve the function of normal mobility. Another pattern for sensory processing disorders is sensory discrimination disorder. In this pattern, children have difficulty in perceiving the quality of the stimulus received through sensory organs. For example, children may have problem in perceiving auditory stimulus and thus cannot locate the direction of sound or understand whose voice it is. Or they may have difficulty in discriminating visually between alphabets or similar faces, or they may have problem perceiving and understanding the taste stimulus and thus having problems of feeding and drinking, or there may be a problem in perceiving directions or joint sense in their body. Scope and role of physiotherapist in children having sensory discrimination disorder remain insignificant, and these children require help from other experts. The third pattern for NDDs for sensory processing disorders is called sensory-based motor disorder. Here, the children are usually presented with diagnoses like dyspraxia and postural disorder. These children, for having problem in receiving and perceiving sensory information, they have difficulty in learning and executing tasks related to advanced gross motor skills or novel pattern. There is problem in developing and perceiving the goal of movement, and therefore planning the movement to execute the new or complex motor task is very difficult for them. These children, for not having control on motor activities and motor control, seems clumsy and awkward and reported to have frequent accidents. They also have problem in handling and manipulating objects with their both hands and therefore tends to break the objects. They have problem in participating in sports activities and learning advanced fine motor skills related to daily living activities. Children having postural disorders have problem in perceiving their body positions in space or environment. The main reason is impaired core or trunk stability, leading to poorly developed motor patterns. Therefore, these children show uncoordinated patterns of movement while executing motor tasks and appear weak with tendency to get tired easily. They have difficulty in functions like pull, push, or lifting the heavy objects against gravity. The problem is mainly related to inefficient perception of coordinating the muscular forces within body and adjusting with demand of exerting force in environment. They exhibit awkward body alignments while working in anti-gravity postures for longer timings. Physiotherapists have significant role to play while dealing with children having sensory-based motor disorder, specifically while working in multidisciplinary team and developing the integrated treatment plan with other experts in team. They can help these children by improving their core or trunk stability, enhancing their kinesthetic sense, enhancing motor learning ability, and providing balance and coordination training required for advanced gross motor skills. So this is now the time to summarize the presentation. So what we have learned in this presentation today, that NDD is a combination of different type of conditions, and these conditions share similarities in symptoms and etiology, and therefore differential diagnosis is very important for accurate clinical decision making. We already have evidence-based classification system in neurodevelopmental disorders, and therefore we can use this classification system to identify, diagnose, and plan treatment specific to condition. With context of physiotherapy, neurodevelopmental disorders are classified into three broader categories. These categories include neurodevelopmental disorders for intellectual disability, neurodevelopmental disorders for sensory processing disorders, and neurodevelopmental disorders for motor dysfunctions. We should use this system of differential diagnosis in order to understand the underlying cause and primary problems related to each condition. And on the basis of collective information, every therapist should decide if he has any significant role to play to deal with the particular condition, and also to decide the right approach to treat the underlying cause rather than just resolving the symptoms of children. Once you understood the etiology of neurodevelopmental disorders and the system of differential diagnosis in NDDs, now it is the time to start thorough assessment of these children to reach to final diagnosis of child required to plan the treatment. And our third presentation will be related how to do assessment in children having different type of neurodevelopmental disorders. That is all for today. Thank you very much for listening. Hope the information provided in this presentation will help. Your questions and feedback is very important. Please write down your queries and your feedback in comment box, and I will be happy to reply your queries. Thank you again, and see you in part 3, which is assessment of neurodevelopmental disorders in children.